Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Better Community Podcast. This is the place where we dive into real stories, fresh ideas, and also practical insights to help professionals and businesses grow, adapt, and thrive. I'm Ben, and I'm the founder of Better Community. And today we are talking about something really important and interesting: how to lead and stay ahead in a world that's constantly changing. The world is moving fast, and we all know industries are evolving, new challenges popping up, and also the uncertainty is everywhere, which means we need to think in a different way. We need a different mindset to be ready for coping with the challenges in this new era. The question is, how do leaders and professionals build the right skills to not just keep up and actually cope with those challenges in a better way? My guest today, André, knows a thing or two about navigating change. He's worked with universities, as I know, startups, and big companies as well, helping them stay innovative, build strong teams, and turn great ideas into action. And I'm really happy to have him here. Thank you, André, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks
I'm
for
really
having
happy
me.
to have you here. And if you think you want to add something about yourself, maybe I missed something, I'm really interested too.
You did your research, so that's great. We know each other already. But basically, yeah, that's my background. I've been in entrepreneurial teaching for over 10 years, over a decade at Hans University and at the University of Groningen, which is one of the top 1% business faculties in the world. So yeah, really top notch. And I'm also an entrepreneur myself. So basically, navigating the waters myself too, and like you shared that it can be hard and sometimes even harsh, but it's also a lot of fun. What I do with my company, and the idea with Suwise is that I help teams to get ideas that are that should be in the world, get them off the ground faster and better. So that's basically what I do. And it is innovation, startups, projects, products, or processes. It doesn't really matter if it's radically new, not the day to day business or the typical things that we are doing on a every day. I help them with that and get them from A to B faster and better. So with proven methods.
Great. So, André, we already talked about the main area we want to discuss in this episode, which is about diving into how leaders and teams can stay flexible, make smart decisions, and I don't know, for example, how to drive innovation. And also, w- we want to talk about must-have skills to stay competitive in today's job market. You're living in the VUCA world. I mean, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And sometimes something happens that we have no idea about those stuff, I mean. So maybe for the first question, I'm really interested to uh, hear more about the way you started to engage in this specific area, because as you mentioned, for almost 10 years, you've engaged in the entrepreneurial fields and also a startup ecosystem and empowering people, individuals, businesses, and things like that. What was the main reason you engaged in this specific field?
Yeah, a great question. I like it because it's also one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. And long story short, it's a spark that ignited the fire, basically. So what I noticed while during studying business myself, I noticed I liked it, but I tend to gravitate towards innovation, newer things, and then I found entrepreneurship. And basically, what I found is that people had a care. So people really cared for what they want to achieve. And they really felt that strong that they wanted to challenge the status quo. And they basically said, I can do it better than multi billion dollar or euro industries or companies, and I can do a better job. So basically, you also need to be a bit crazy. But if you feel that strongly, if that motivated regarding an idea, I wanted to be a part of that. And I could also yeah, I could feel it myself too. I also felt sometimes strongly for, or it can be from a social matter or a product matter or whatsoever. But if you feel really strong and convincing about something, yeah, it's also infectious, and that is why I decided to do my master's in entrepreneurship, and also did a lot of things in education and combine these two things. Yeah, and one thing led to another, and that's basically long story short. So it's really a personal spark, and I like people that have big ideas and are a bit crazy in that sense.
Great. And as I know, you've worked in different industries, from education to business and also healthcare, right?
Yeah,
So, how have you seen leadership change in today's world?
leadership specifically.
Yes.
So so leadership, yeah, it really depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the industry. It depends on the challenge that's ahead of you, of course. So also the situational or contextual is important. Uh, um, yeah, regarding leadership, what I see nowadays is that there, yeah, it's also cultural, I think. So, for instance, in the Netherlands, everyone knows oh, we are not that hierarchical. We like to involve also people that are in day to day operations, etc., etc. Only the hard thing is to really do that without getting never ending discussions and all these things. So sometimes you say we need this crystal clear leader, like let's say maybe a bit autocratic. I know a certain president from the USA, which is a bit more autocratic, says, okay, let's do it this way, which sometimes works, sometimes not. And if you are in a more collaborative environment and really want to embrace all the talent you have in a company from all different skill sets as well and different backgrounds. So it can be backgrounds from countries, cultural, but also from different skill sets like marketing or sales, product development, engineering. If you really want to embrace the talent and also even let it grow, you need to find a way to get those people together and collaborate. But that is freaking hard.
That's right.
Group group decision making processes, man, that's a Scrabble word. It's so oof, it's so hard. It also doesn't sound sexy, but if you find a sweet spot and get a team really collaborate and high fiving all around, then the change is also not Friday. Because in general, people are really scared for change, right? So people are reluctant to change. This is also the first thing you be taught in universities regarding change management. However, if they are part of the change, instead of that they see it as a deer in the headlights, but really are a part of the change and have a part of the steering wheel and really understand the process towards the change. So it's not put upon them from management, but also get them input without getting this never ending discussions. So, like I said, there is this sweet spot, and then magic can happen. So people can actually looking forward towards a change and getting high fiving out of the room after we had a session. And that is also why I started my company.
Good.
Uh,
I see 2 points now. The first one is you are focusing on D&I strategies. I mean, diversity and inclusion, which means how we can consider and also engage different point of views in terms of, I don't know, different backgrounds, language, culture, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's more on an effective team. So actually, I personally I don't care where you're from or what your background is. I think if you have something valuable to bring to the table, we should embrace that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
But still, it's tough because, as you mentioned, for example, in terms of different approach to our communication. I mean, for example, there's a concept we can consider Dutch people as kind of low context people, which means you are trying to share directly your points without any extra between the line, I mean, gray areas and the things like that. But for example, I'm coming from a culture that's maybe usually when I want to talk about something, first of all, I'm trying to go around it and then share the main point. I mean, in terms of how we go about time management or how we give feedbacks or the things like that, different people from different cultures choosing different approach. And the point is, that's why intercultural competency and intercultural communication skills should be really important, right?
yeah,
But now I want to jump to the specific. concept and the point you mentioned about change. Because when we are talking about change, uh, we are talking about something to change in the future, right? And the problem is we have no idea what future holds for us, and we cannot know everything about the future, about the progress and the way we can manage the change. It means my question is, how do leaders make smart decisions when the future is unclear? What do you think about this specific situation?
Yeah, so let me see if I can paraphrase that. So basically, when the future is uncertain or unclear,
Yeah.
you need to navigate into these uncharted territories, basically, and also the context can change. So, yeah, of course, there's always something like a black swan. That's a very popular idea or concept, but you can take it into account or not. Yeah, but how to navigate? So basically, I would say you should so some things you can predict, of course, right? So for instance, so not everything is uncertain. So for instance, if I work in a healthcare situation, you can actually predict what will happen in future healthcare. If you look at demographics, like we will have a more elderly population in the near future. So we know we need to become more efficient as a system because we also have a lower number of professionals. So these things you can actually predict pretty well, right? So these things you take into account. However, what you can do is also answering a question. You should really find your a purpose, basically an overall purpose with the team. And it shouldn't be like I don't know, can I swear a bit? Yeah, it shouldn't be a bullshit purpose that only hangs in management offices. And when you do a step outside that office, you do not feel it anymore. So basically, a purpose should be felt. Basically, it's an identity. You should feel it inwards and live it. So first thing you do, very project management 101 mistake. So the first thing you need to know is why you are doing things, what you want to achieve. So why do you want what to achieve? So you that's basically what a purpose is, right? And you need to have a common purpose that's felt by everyone. But typically, only management actually is posing a purpose, and then it's the blah blah and not really laser focus, a bit more general. So no one hates it, no one particularly like it. It's like like I would say a microwave dinner. It's just not that tasty, right? So you need to be more laser focused, specific, a really clear hypothesis, so you can actually use it to later on decide what to do and what not to do. So the first step, you need to have the why. The second step is that you need to have like basically a vision of the outcomes, right? So you need to basically see if we have success, how does it look like? What did we actually do? Did we create a customer success team? Did we create a new building in which we should operate? Did we create, I don't know, it can be all, it really depends on the situation, what the outcome vision is. So the first thing is that how you will get there. And then you want to have all ideas of all the people on the table from all different backgrounds that are involved with the changing process, so you can get them connected towards it and really feel it, right? But you can also do that for the first two steps. But typically, how it's happened, the first two is decided in a boardroom, and then the third one we have like this limited amount of how, and that's just not, yeah. They are not trusting the professionals enough. Basically, they're basically saying the people that are doing the day to day are not strategic enough to be bothered by strategic things, and that is something I really, really strongly uh, dislike. To say it mildly. So then you have like all these ideas on the table, and then you need to organize and filter it, prioritize, get milestones. That's basically how you do project management 101. And you can actually use that same system also in certain situations. So if you are navigating this treacherous new waters, let's say AI, everybody's talking about it. Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah, everybody's talking about it, but no one really knows how it will actually roll out in the future. There are some things glaring on the horizon, but you can actually already go and make yourself clear in what direction you want to go, and then it's basically thing a thing that you can incorporate, right? If you want to accomplish something, the why, then you can also see how these things you can incorporate in like later on. Then it's just a part of the how and the what. Does it make sense?
Yes, and my question is, if you want to mention one, two, three critical, crucial skills, how to navigate in these kind of uncertain situations. And as you mentioned, we have no idea what we will face in the future. Uh, what are those specific different approach or skills we need to learn or practice more?
Yeah, great thing. Well, the top thing is group decision making process. There is the word again. It's not sexy. It's not a sexy word. Maybe we need to have a new thing for it, rebrand it a bit. But basically, you want to figure out a way to actually use all the pros you have without getting conflict. And you want to be as diverse as possible so you can actually benefit from that without getting too different from each other so it will result in conflict. And basically, you need to have systems for it. And as you mentioned, if you have, for instance, different cultural backgrounds, it can be really challenging, right? So what I try to do is the second thing. So second thing is you need to figure out how to actually create processes so you can embrace, yeah, the difference within your team, and it can also be from other backgrounds, like I said, not only cultural, but really also design, management, engineering, basically the typical conflict areas in a business for a new product. So if you want to have that, what people always do, and I mean always, I've seen it, I've done it, I lived it as well. If we have, if we need to have a new innovative way or a new idea, what is everybody doing? They all go and have a meeting and have in that meeting a shitty brainstorming session. And then afterwards, no decision is made. So, like no group decision process that's functional. You get hierarchy, you get political things, the introverts versus the extroverts. So you leave a lot of value on the table, or basically it's not shared on the table, and you have like two people have that one thing in mind, the other people have the other two things in mind, and the people that's person that's making the notes actually writes a third option. So again, you think you are aligned, but later on, turns out they are not aligned and had tada conflict, right? So and then they say we need to have another meeting. And then people get angry and conflict and blah blah blah. Or they actually even what's even worse than the conflict is neglect, right? So that ignoring, I'm not showing up anymore. So then you have this real issue. So what you really need to learn is how to collaborate with different people, and that's easier said than done because like I said, we don't have that many tools in our toolkit because everybody turns to a typical meeting. However, a typical meeting works great if you have a decision or a clear agenda. But if you want to create something structurally new, more radical new, instead of an incremental improvement or innovation, you should actually get away from that meeting and actually have, for instance, a workshop instead. So, and that's really, really well prepared. So you can get all these people from the different backgrounds in one, let's say, a roller coaster seat, and then it doesn't matter from what background you are, but you will get to the crazy emotional and you get all the input. And in the end, you will end on the place that people designed up front. And that's why it's working so much better because you can then have a functional way of embracing all these differences and without getting the conflict. And I've done this now for over and over again with my company Masuba. I didn't even introduce it yet, but I've done that over and over again. And what we see is that this saves so much time, like months. Next to that, the results are more effective. So the results are even better. And we have, as a byproduct, happy teams, which also results in more productivity, less turnover, etc., etc. And it's more fun, right? So yeah, I feel quite strong about this, as you might notice. So yeah.
Good. And speaking of your experience helping businesses become more innovative, when we are thinking about innovation and the things like that, such as the change, you know, people usually prefer to know what is the plan in details.
Mhm.
But as you, at least based on my understanding from what you mentioned, usually they need to feel comfortable embracing change and uncertainty. How do you create a work culture or kind of environment to help people to feel
Yeah.
comfortable with these specific situations?
Yeah. This is a classic catch 22, right? So you need to have like embrace the uncertainty to be able to embrace the uncertainty. So you need so one thing you can actually break this trade off is having small successes or making the transitions not so big. And sometimes they need to be really big if they change too late, right? So if you're going to a cliff at the last moment, you need to use the handbrake or really steer the wheel. Uh, you want to avoid that really. So if you do it more steps and clearly, uh, yeah, sometimes it's still necessary, but in general, you can actually move from that and then have small successes, so you can really feel like, okay, we are still in control. If the situation is changing, we know that we have the skills, the capabilities, or the access to capabilities to actually navigate these new waters, right? So then you feel competent, basically. And the best thing to do is actually have small successes and celebrate it as well. So that's also why it's working really well to have a very clear project management, because you can actually build in those very small milestones. So, and if they are meaningful, so not the bullshit milestones, but really meaningful, you'll have a small success and you're off to the races. Does it answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes. And as I know, you coach and train people a lot,
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
which means I think one of the main struggles you are coping is at the same time while they are busy with work schedule and daily activities, you need to help them or you are trying to help them to learn some new habits and skills, right?
yeah,
Or different point of view or different mindset and things like that. For example, resilience is one of those things. Maybe most of the time you are trying to help them to learn to practice in terms of increasing the leadership skills. How you cope with these situations, because you know you need to bring them outside of their comfort zone and help them or encourage them to think outside the box. And
yeah,
even sometimes these experiences are painful. You know what I mean? And they prefer not to engage in this new area. They prefer to stay in their comfort zone. And I think when you are coaching them or training them, you are not just trying to deliver some information or knowledge. Also, you are trying to, as you mentioned, create kind of real change. And I think also you have some insights and tips for sharing with us when we want to learn new skills while we are struggling with our daily challenges.
yeah. This is really also an operational question as well, because everybody is busy, right? And especially if you want to have like this, let's say, let's go back to the group decision making process. You need to have a whole group that basically creates a schedule and emails and day to day challenges or even fires you need to put out or coming on your schedule, right? But typically, a lot of fires are not really fires, but it might feel in the beginning. But not focus on that. So answering your question. So basically, what I typically try to two things that I find really important as takeaways for teams I work with is have a more entrepreneurial mindset, and with that I mean try to break things down in smaller things, create experiments. If they fail, you actually have a successful experiment because you've learned something from it. So shift the focus from actually creating the outcome you want to achieve, but shift the focus to maximize learning in a way that's fast and without much, uh, uh, money or effort put into it. But you actually are measuring, so you then get data back on which you can steer, right? Instead of having this endless discussion. And I think, and I assume, or why do not get the data? You can actually create like a very simple 2-week experiment, and then look back at it, and then you know, yeah, this was really a dumb idea, right? That's much better because the other option is like, oh yeah, let's talk more in 2 weeks, and then there's still no decision. So the first thing is have a more experimental mindset. So fail fast, and I do not like particularly the word fail, but in general, because failing is not failing, failing is actually maximizing learning. So if you change the scope from learning and from outcome oriented results to maximize learning with a small experiment, it's completely doable. And also, you need to. That's also already feeling a bit insecure, right? So, for instance, I'm working with a lot of doctors, and doctors really want to have the best results for their patients because else they might die. So that's quite serious, right? But if they are creating something new or a new system or a new program, typically the patient does not die. But they want to have this perfect system already in the first version and really have a deep dive in all the features and characteristics and have an endless discussion, years and years on that. But it turns out you only need to have the top features in it. But what are the top features? There, the group decision making process comes in, and then you are off to the races again. And then you go to version 2, version 3, version 4, and that's how new products or businesses are made. And Rome is not built in a day. So the first thing is a more experimental mindset. And the second one, which I think is highly undervalued, is that you need to, uh, uh, yeah, people should have an insight. So I can tell them, but that typically doesn't work. And now I will tell you. So it typically doesn't work. I'm aware of that. But people usually think they have already the solution, which is or a way for a solution. But typically they are not they do not fully understand the problem yet they try to solve. And they have a more general idea of the problem. So who's the customer exactly? So really, is it an individual? Is it an organization? Is it a team? What very specific, again, laser focused problem do you try to solve? What unique capabilities do you have? So all these things. So why are you so passionate about it that you are the right person for this particular job? And what are the others doing? So competitors or alternatives. So all these things, typically people think they already know that. It's more intrinsic, but typically it's not fully articulated, especially if you are working with a team, because then everybody says we try to accomplish the same thing, but they are not on the aligned on the same page yet. So I want to. That's the main takeaway in general. You come in with an idea. An idea is basically a solution. We go back to the problem first, really have a deep dive in that, and then we come up with different ideas or solutions and experiments with that. And then in the end, sometimes at 9 out of 10 times, actually the solution is different that we came into. So this is really, even experts have this, and it happens over and over again. And after, if you have experienced this once, then you understand. It's basically the other side of the same coin, which you can't see from your point of view. So you need to actually go to the other side yourself and experience. I can tell you, but you should experience this.
Yeah, I really like that kind of encouraging to maximizing learning by increasing failing. I mean, yeah, it means failures are kind of opportunity for learning, and instead of just trying to avoid them, we need to try to make more maybe kind of mistakes. Try to, I mean, go outside of comfort zones, because before going outside of your comfort zones, maybe you make some, wrong decisions or doing something in a wrong way. But as you mentioned, this is kind of way for learning. Definitely, it's not the only way for learning, but one of the solutions for increasing learning. Speaking of that point, you know, I'm really interested in community driven approaches. And one of the main reason is, if you can build a strong community, it can act as kind of support system for you, which means the communities can bring more opportunities for you in terms of learning, sharing experiences, even gain some support. I don't know, if you fail, then you can, have kind of back and again start, or even sometimes learn from others. I mean, giving something, taking something dealing with people, something like that. And the point is, I met you in some events. For me, those events or gatherings mostly was kind of opportunity for building my networking community. Frankly speaking, specifically, I haven't learned something in different workshops or the things like that from you. I met you and I learned from you via your feedbacks, for example, in some sessions. What do you think about connections and networking to maximize opportunities for professionals to learn how they can expand their network, how they can build some support systems to give them more rooms for experiencing more failings and more learning?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, great point. And I think this is one of this future yeah, skill or competence that you really need to have or develop. So basically, yeah, great networking. So first thing is, of course, while I was a bit younger, I really disliked networking. I felt I got a, I should say this, a bad aftertaste. It felt like I was selling, oh, I need something. But in in general, if you basically switch your perspective on that, so basically you're saying, okay, I try to help also others, and we all try to learn something, and I'm not basically trying to sell something on the first occasion I meet you. I just trying to meet new interesting people. Then also your goal is changing. So first, you need to be into networking and say, okay, just do it. So the second thing is, and because networking is really important. Yeah, there's okay. Let me first go to the second thing. So the second thing is that you this is a principle that I use myself. So sometimes I have this meeting or an opportunity coming up, and you can't really judge the book by its cover, right? Because you don't know who are participating, you don't know the context. Maybe you meet a special person that might be your co-founder or whatsoever. So what I typically do, I sometimes then I do not feel like going, or hey, you're busy in the day-to-day thing. So then I think, okay, like I said, this is a principle that I use myself. I need to decide afterward. This is basically an experiment. Worst case scenario, I had an interesting night and a free beer. So that's literally the worst case scenario, which sounds like a typical night with friends, right? So then it doesn't sound that bad. So what I try to do is not decide upfront if it's useful or not, lose the usefulness, but decide afterward. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is just go. Uh, Easy tip: go with one of your friends, because then it's always someone that's in your corner. You're not standing still in a. So that social anxiety thing that's typically not happening because everybody's open to discuss on such meetings. You will plan in. It will be okay. And in worst case, you will just leave and go home. So no harm done. And the second thing is decide afterward. And now, because I didn't discuss why networking is so important, a network is important, as you discussed. It's basically a community or something like that. Uh, uh, so it's also hard to break in sometimes, right? So it can introduce you to great opportunities via you that you are not even aware of, and this is in numerous things in the world. So if I understand correctly, like 70 or 80% of jobs are distributed via instead of normal typical job applications. So if you are looking at the job application program, for instance, on LinkedIn, typically they already discussed this in the network. And the reason why they are doing this because distributing job opportunities via a network is much shorter and it's more effective because if you are recommending someone, then that person must be good, right? Because you know both parties involved, so you basically know that might be a good match. And you are like I should say this like an unofficial review, right? If you're saying this is good, you are not benefiting from that. So if you're doing the thumbs up, then and it's faster and much less expensive because recruiting is really expensive. So this is cost situation, a network, but it can give you basically a network gives you also access, and access to networks can compensate for things that you don't have. So, for instance, if you do not have a great network and very wealthy community, so to say, or venture capitalist, and you can't break into that world, If you know someone who is in that world and you have a good connection with that, you can get access to that other community as well. And then you actually have, if you have this good idea and you need fuel for it, let's say money, then that's an easy, so it can compensate for a lack of money. It can compensate for a lack of knowledge. And we know each other via the University of Groningen. There's a lot of knowledge going on, and they also know other people that are in the same field, and it might be even a better. So it's an access towards very specific knowledge and other things that you might be lacking. So you cannot. I cannot emphasize this enough. Just do it. A bit of
Right.
that.
That's all right. As you mentioned, I can phrase it in that way that networking and a strong community can bring more opportunities,
Yeah,
more accessing to money and smart money. It's not tangible money, but you can convert them to more resources for your benefits even. But generally speaking, you mentioned when you were talking about the networking, you mentioned about future, and it could be one of the main fields that we need to consider in the future to have access more. I don't know, whatever, as you mentioned, money, knowledge, experience, and the things like that. But my question is, I know it's almost maybe impossible or difficult, but what trends or shifts in leadership and business should professionals be paying attention to?
yeah, that's a good one. What I clearly see is there's people finally have the tools and also the technology to collaborate more effectively. So, for instance, in the past, you might get like suboptimal outcomes or in let's say a region or whatsoever, because that's just the optimal outcome in that specific region, right? Like a local optimum. I don't know if you how well you know math, but like a local optimum. And now you can actually break through that local optimum because, as we are also talking via the internet, there are all these tools. However, not everybody can wield them like a professional, right? So you need to be able to actually use these things. So like I said, group decision making or decision making between different organizations or companies, that's really hard. So what I see is that people are willing to collaborate more. Also, not only people, but like I said, leaders want to collaborate more. But the next thing is how. And so do that effectively and efficiently. So, and that is hard because then we get back to the beginning. You need to have a shared purpose, a common purpose. You need to know what you want to accomplish. And for instance, if you say we want to collaborate more, collaborate is like a means to an end, right? Why do you want to collaborate? What do you want to achieve? And then if you say, for instance, better healthcare, what's that, right? So what's better? I can define it in 100 different ways. So you need to get, like I said, aligned on the problem of what do you really want to achieve, really in the nitty gritty. You need to have a deep dive in that because else you think you are aligned and then you're not, and then the collaboration fails. So the typical thing I see is people want to collaborate more. Some are successful, some are not. But there is finally the instruments are out there to do that, and now it's up to us to figure out how to wield those instruments.
So, if you want to, or if you could give just one piece of advice to professionals or business owners about thriving in changing world, what would it be?
The main thing is that it always gets back to all companies I work with and all startups and entrepreneurs I work with. They all come in the same way. They come with us already a solution again, and then the first thing, and it's sometimes even frustrating, we go back to the problem side of things. So we try to find problem solutions here. And 9 out of 10 times the problem, I already broke the problem a bit down, the basics a bit down earlier in this conversation. But if you need to emphasize both sides of that coin. So really first get the problem right, and then you can look at different solutions. Because if you have that and you really know what you want to accomplish and why, then you can design those experiments we also discussed, and you can actually have the small baby steps that altogether are a huge leap for humankind, so to say. So you can actually build on that. So again, what I would give, or what I think it's most important to the listeners is basically, if you have an idea for whatsoever, it can be an idea in your own organization, company, work, side hustle. I don't know. If you have an idea for that, figure out what you really want to accomplish and why first. And that can be, like I said, on the customer problem. What unique insights do you have? What unique capabilities do you have, or your team have, or your organization have? So if you have alignment on that, because it's already hard to do this on yourself, right? If you're coming in, I'm now just talking about one person. But what if a team comes in? Let's say I have 10 people coming in.
That's right.
No way people are on the same page on this. Just just like that. This is that's like a Christmas miracle. That's like unicorns and rainbows. That's just not happening. So you think you are aligned and you want to accomplish the same thing, but probably with the different reasons. And if the reasons are different, then the solution will also, that will result in frustration and conflicts, because you try to solve different things, but you think you try to solve the same things. It sounds a bit conceptual, but this is basically what I also, the first thing I do with everyone that has an intake. I'm even offering that as a, like a free workshop, so you can actually experience what I'm doing before paying. So we can create some also trusting relationship. Basically, figuring out what you're trying to solve and why with your team, more specifically. And if you have that clear, and worst case scenario again, you have a very productive meeting, right? If you say afterwards, yeah, I don't want to collaborate or whatsoever, that's then fine. But in general, people say, okay, wow, this was amazing. This goes so much faster than this endless discussion with no real decision. The only decision to have another meeting. Everybody hates meetings. Stop doing meetings. That's basically the idea. But so I help them with that, and then we go from that. I have basically all these things uh, made in products. And I do a lot of short sprints to go through these feedback loops very quickly structured. So we are actually making sure that we are embracing the different perspective properly. So it's just entrepreneurial methods for all organizations. And all these methods we are using, I've learned over more than a decade, and they are proven and tested over the whole world. But why are they only used at startups where they lack money and time? You can also use these effective methods on other organizations and innovations, right? So that's basically what I'm doing with Masuba.
Great. A huge thank you for sharing the insights, your experiences as well. My last but not least question is, where can people learn more about your work or get in touch with you?
Yeah,
If you want to share any links, your LinkedIn or whatever, just
yeah.
feel free to share with us.
People can find my LinkedIn. My name is André Bergsma. So André Bergsma, maybe.
We add your LinkedIn link if it's fine in the description of this episode as well.
Yeah, and you can find it on my website or also company LinkedIn, and that's called Masuba.nl. There's a whole story for regarding that idea, but basically regarding that name, but it's spelled MASSOEBA
I don't know.
and just get in touch, because basically every great idea or project starts with a conversation or a cup of coffee, and I'm more than happy to talk with people. Like I said, I started this with a spark, and that people want to change something, and that is always, I like that, to have the cup of coffee and talk ideas.
If you think there is anything else that maybe I missed to ask you or mention during our conversation, you want at the end a stress on something on all years.
So yeah, like I said, the main thing is to focus more on the problem side. And no one cares. Oh, I didn't include that, but this is a typical one-liner. No one cares about your idea solution. They only care about their own problem.
That's right.
So you need to figure out those problems and then a solution to resolve that problem.
So this is episode 10 of Benefit Podcast. and hopefully in few days we will publish it. It's available on different platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, and other platforms. Thank to our listeners as well. I just want to ask them if they found this episode helpful, share it with their network, and subscribe to the Better Community Podcast for more insights on leadership, career growth, and future skills. And they can find more information about you in the description of this episode. Also, the other episodes are available on those
Mm.
platforms I mentioned, and they can follow the Benu Community website, which is Benu BENNU dot community. And also over there, we already added different links to our online club, to the podcast, and the things like that. More than happy to talk to you. That was really great. I learned again lots of nice insights from you and hope to see you soon around.
Thank you so much for having me, and wish you well for the things that are ahead of you.
Appreciate. Thank you again.
Embrace the uncertainty.
Offer.
You know that even better. I do. I think.
Stay adaptable and embrace uncertainty.